Periods. Let's talk about it, okay? And so that's what virgin actually means.
It's just gotta stick together.
What do I always say? Listen to your pussy.
She never lies.
Sister Strain here.
Your favorite feisty feminist filmmaking duo.
You're listening to The Sister Strain. So, hello and welcome back to our Care to Share mini-series. Thank you everyone who's been following along to get informed and learn more about the housing crisis and other issues we're facing in our community. Our guest today, I actually had the pleasure of meeting at an overdose awareness event at R.O.C.K Missions. So if you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do in the community, that'd be great.
Okay, my name is Leslie Raitt. I am a co-facilitator for a support group here in Chatham. It happens every other Tuesday at the R.O.C Missions House. I'm not going to give any more information because it is by private invite only. Mm-hmm. It is called Holding Hope, and it is for family and friends who have family members or friends that are using substances. It's to support them on how to manage through the issues they're experiencing, and just to kind of answer questions and let them know they're not alone.
And I think it's great to bring that up because, as we're all aware, there's been a lot of conversations about R.O.C Missions in Chatham over the last few months. A lot of conversations about what they don't do, what some people feel they don't do. And so it's great to know we've been talking with various other individuals about the services that are offered by R.O.C to the community. But I don't think that a lot of people would know that they also are kind of hosting support groups like this, so not just for individuals who are experiencing houselessness or addictions themselves, but also supportive programming for individuals who have loved ones who are facing those challenges. And that you have had firsthand experience with a loved one in town. Are you comfortable sharing a little bit about your journey?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Do you just want me to?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, I have a son. He is 38 years old. He has suffered from substance use issues since he was approximately 19.
Wow.
He has been homeless or unhoused several times over the last, I'm going to say 14, 15 years. Mm-hmm. He started off with marijuana, then went to R.O.C.K and tried a little bit of crystal meth and cocaine. By the time he was, recently, when he finally started into recovery, which thankfully he is now, yes. His drug of choice was fentanyl or carfentanil.
Wow.
So the big scary one.
Yeah.
So he did spend 2.5 years being unhoused on the streets of Chatham.
Wow. Did you have much contact with him during that time?
It was sporadic.
Yeah.
He would call me from payphones. The frequency kind of got less and less because I had set up boundaries with regards to what I was willing to do, and he wasn't liking that I wasn't going to give him money every time he called, or I wasn't going to run to him every time he called unless it was an actual emergency. So they became a little less frequent, but I would hear from him about every 2 to 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And if it had been longer, I would reach out to R.O.C.K.
Yeah.
And ask, have you seen him? And of course, they would not tell me where because they respect the privacy of the people they're supporting. Yeah. But they would let me know if they had seen him. Yeah. So I knew that he was still out there and I wasn't needing to call a hospital or, God forbid, a morgue.
Yeah.
And they would encourage him to call me. If he came to the house for supports, they would say, have you spoken to your mom lately? And they would encourage him to call me and let him use their phone.
I can
It's
only
so important
imagine.
that check-in.
Mm-hmm.
We're speaking with another woman in the next episode, Tammy, who is also a mother of an individual who's found support with R.O.C Missions, and she mentioned the same thing, how important it was that they provided that opportunity for him to be able to make a phone call to check in with her.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I can't imagine to be a mother and have a child who's going through this, and to know that you do have to set up boundaries. Enabling is a big conversation piece right now as well. But also, you want to make sure that individual is safe, that someone has had eyes on them, that, to know that just, I guess, for the peace of mind in any way to know where they are, that they're, that they're still doing okay, and that someone is looking out for them in the community, even if for the betterment of them, it can't be you kind of taking on that role, to that peace of mind to know that someone is out there kind of keeping eyes on them.
Absolutely. As a parent, if you haven't heard from your child that is experiencing houselessness and addiction, your own mind goes crazy with what ifs. And you, inside of 5 minutes of thinking, can have them buried in a ditch somewhere without knowing. So the longer you don't hear from your child, the more fear you have, the more you can create scenarios of what has happened to them or potentially happened to them.
I think most mothers, even if their children aren't facing those particular concerns or issues, are still quick to go to worst case scenario when there's been a little bit of disconnect, or you haven't heard from your child. So knowing that you just don't know where they are, what they're up to, would amplify that so much.
I was curious if in your mind there is kind of a moment or an experience that attributed to your son kind of getting on the path that he found himself on. Was it a friend's group? Was it something that happened in his life? Was it just being around the wrong people or wrong place, wrong time? Or it was just something that seemed casual and just kind of got ahead of him, and he found himself kind of deep in it?
That's a hard one to answer, because it took me several years to even realize that he had an issue. Like, he was probably well into his 20s. And I don't find it a lot about where it began unless he is in a recovery state, because then he'll talk to me. So I found out little bits and pieces, and he keeps going back to feelings of abandonment from his father. His biological father and I separated when he was only 2. And from that point on, his involvement in both my son and his brother's lives was sporadic. There were actually times when I would have to reach out and remind him that he had children that wanted to see him. There was times where he made promises and broke them. And then eventually he had another child with another wife, and it was a boy. And he gave him the life that my boys wanted.
And that must have been, they had to watch.
And they had to watch that. They would go visit him and see everything that their brother had and what their dad was doing for their brother, and not for them, or had not done for them at that age. He's a fair bit younger than them, but still, to see that. And so he keeps going back to those feelings of abandonment and anger and wanting to numb that. Aside from that, he also was diagnosed with ADHD when he was 6 years old, which was a struggle, because I had difficulties with him as a young child. And we had difficulties in daycare and then into school. Saw a lot of doctors, a lot of therapists, talked to a lot of people, finally got a diagnosis. And at that point, it was almost too late, because his peers had started to identify him as different.
But it also wasn't talked about, acknowledged, or diagnosed and understood by a lot of people until very recently, I think. So it must have been tougher to navigate that, not having the wherewithal from the larger society of like what it is and what that means and how to navigate.
Absolutely. And I'm big on research. So when I found this out about my son, I started researching it, and there was not a lot to be said about it. Like, as early as 15 years up before his diagnosis, they were hospitalizing children with ADHD because they thought they had a mental disability. So he struggled with that. He was identified by his friends as different, and throughout his whole life he had poor self-esteem from that. And always had the impression that in order to have friends, he had to follow them, go along with them. And that contributed to the feelings that he was feeling from his father's abandonment.
And we talk, another individual that we speak to in this series we're doing is Brian Noller, who talks a lot about trauma. Because he himself, as a police officer, has struggled from PTSD, and I kind of hid it for many years until he finally decided to face it. And the talk about what trauma means, how it's very different for every human who encounters it. And some people are able to just kind of move on quick and be okay with it, and other people hold it in different places in them. So, losing a parent in whatever way that means, that is for that person, maybe a very big trauma that never got resolved or that lives in them in a certain way. And sometimes they can hide it away and navigate it. And other times maybe it comes up a little more. It sounds like maybe that was something that followed him a little more deeply, that he maybe didn't necessarily know how to navigate himself. And I think also in our society, especially with his age, that we haven't always encouraged, especially young men, to acknowledge their mental health or ask for help. So I can only imagine that might have contributed to him holding on to those feelings and trying to, I guess, self-medicate his processing of it.
Absolutely. And I'm happy that he recognizes it.
Yeah.
Because if he recognizes it, he can deal with it.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Well, acknowledgement is the first step, right?
First step.
Yeah.
But when he mentions it, and he doesn't talk about it all the time with me, he just brings things up.
Yeah.
You can still see it in his face that he's suffering pain from it.
Yeah.
And here he is, 38 years old, with a child of his own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when he was diagnosed with ADHD, was there a lot of support in the way of like therapy or any like resources offered to you?
Nothing. No,
Nothing.
not even the school system really understood what to do.
Wow.
They still thought back then that setting solid rules was the way to deal with it. It was
Yeah.
behavioral more than a chemical imbalance in
Yeah.
his brain or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So there really wasn't a lot. They gave him a teacher's assistant 1 day a week, and she was there to basically help him catch up on what he'd missed
Yeah.
because he couldn't focus in school.
Yeah. I just imagine with that compiled with the situation with his father, just not feeling like you're accepted is such a
Yeah.
burden to carry.
Yeah.
And, you know, in school is one thing, but then if you also have that feeling in your home life, that's, you know,
And I
double.
think, and we've been having some conversations with individuals around town who do find themselves unhoused or in different programs that our community currently offers. And we've heard that a lot, of just a feeling of not belonging anywhere or not having your community, and how like detrimental that can be to your well-being and your kind of zest to like go try something different or be motivated to make those changes to better yourself.
Well, and you had kind of touched on that in your deputation about the encampment and why, although encampments are not ideal for the individuals who are living there, they're sort of imperative to their sense of community
and belonging.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives them friends, it gives them support, it lets them know they're not alone, and safety is number one.
Yeah.
My son, he tried to be out there on his own a few times and was physically attacked, and not by other unhoused individuals, by individuals within our community that just thought he was nothing.
Yeah.
They just didn't want him to be where he was, and they thought that beating it out of him was going to make a difference.
Yeah.
It's sad, really.
Yeah. It's and it seems almost impossible to hear that people feel inclined to do that, but also at the same time not impossible, because we've seen a lot of very harsh reactions over the summer from our community members. And you know, we mentioned it recently. Someone was asking us about the project and the use of the word crisis and whether we really thought it was a crisis, and I had said yes, there is a housing crisis on many tiers that communities are facing right now, but I think a bigger crisis locally is the reaction that I've seen from our community this
How
summer.
we're navigating
And
this crisis and
Absolutely.
the separation it's causing in the conflict, and you know that we've heard from other unhoused individuals as well who talked about how they've ended up in the encampment, and it was somewhat similar, that they had opportunities to rent rooms or different things, and that they were tricked out of money multiple times. People taking their money to rent
that or
spaces,
the
and
other people in those spaces were continuing habits that they knew if they continued to stay there, their decisions would be affected by that. And so for that reason alone, they opted for encampment or shelter, just to be able to make the decisions on their own to try and better themselves, and to stay away from scenarios that they knew would encourage them to go back to behaviors that they like addictions that they didn't want to be around.
Absolutely, and that's one of the biggest problems with the housing, and specifically for the unhoused that are using substances. There isn't a lot of sober living facilities or residences for them to go where they can actually be out and away from the exposure that led them to their use or continued their use, and still live on their own. And a lot of people, you know, once they know somebody uses substances, has become unhoused, they look at them that way always.
Yeah.
You know, my son, he looks very different now than he did on the street.
Yeah.
I won't use his name because I don't want people to know who he is. If he wants to get out there and put his face out there, that's up to him, but I won't expose him. But it's almost like, I go back to when I had dogs. I bought 2 Staffordshire Terriers years and years ago, and I tried to socialize them by walking them out down the street. And people loved them. They were puppies. Come up and pet them, and, oh, what kind of breed are they? And I'd say, oh, they're pit bulls. And you'd think the dog just bit them.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the way they looked at that dog was completely different because of the
stigma attached to
exactly.
the name.
And that's the same way with somebody who is unhoused or is using substances. As soon as you say, I'm a recovering addict, all of a sudden everybody thinks you're going to steal their stuff.
Yeah.
Or you're going to hurt them or something.
It's such a limited scope of a very complex, marginalized group of people for all different reasons that people find themselves in that situation, navigating it. I was, I think you mentioned your deputation that your son is 6 months. I guess it's a little more than that now,
Just a little more than
sober. What do you think worked for him this time?
You know, I can't put a finger in any one thing. You know, everybody says they have to reach a rock bottom, and I don't know what that means, because if you ask, and I've talked to several people who have recovered, because I used to go to meetings with my son, and a lot of people say not everybody's got a rock bottom.
Yeah.
And everybody's rock bottom is different. What you think should be a rock bottom may be nothing to them.
Yeah.
But he overdosed twice that I know of, was brought back to life, I guess, with Narcan, and then brought to the hospital. He has gone to jail a couple of times. He's been beaten, robbed. You would think any number of those things would be a rock bottom.
Yeah.
I think his rock bottom this time was he's seen too many of the people out there die.
Yeah.
People that he's known that were friends. He's told me stories of, you know, walking down the street with a friend and they collapse and having an overdose. And, you know, he's trying to get help for them, and he carries Narcan as well on the street. He carries Narcan and or naloxone, and giving them the naloxone, getting them help, and then off they go. And then he doesn't see them again, so he doesn't know what happened to them.
Yeah.
And he actually had a really great day. He's actually in Brentwood right now.
Okay.
He graduates this coming weekend, so that's great.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes.
For him.
But
and
he
you.
called me, thank you. He called me within his first week there, and he was so excited because one of those guys that he had thought was dead was in Brentwood.
What a
So
beautiful
it was
surprise.
really good
Yeah.
to see that, you know, somebody else was getting help. But, you know, I think that's what pushed him right to the final rock bottom, if that's what you want to call it, is just seeing his friends die.
I think that's, that we had heard that from another individual we were speaking to. He said that he's getting things stolen, like he's tired of starting over and starting over, but that big thing that he's really struggling with, continuing to lose all of his friends. That's,
I think when you're in a position like that, you already have so little, those losses they would be big to anyone, but they're even greater because you're already starting from like zero, kind of, right?
When we talk about, because there's been a lot of talk about more supportive housing, different implementations the municipality can put in place, and I think, you know, we're looking into a lot of that in Chatham-Kent to see how we do offer different kinds of services for individuals struggling with being unhoused, or with mental health, or with addictions, any scope that kind of where they find themselves in that scenario. But I think why we wanted to speak to you today for the program that you kind of helped get off the ground at R.O.C.K. Can you speak to us about programs currently being offered in Chatham for family members or loved ones of individuals
did you start this
struggling with
program
this?
because you didn't find that there was a lot of
Yeah,
support
that's what
opportunity?
kind of.
For the most part, there are other support group types out there. One is, I guess it's Nar-Anon. NA is actually for the addicts. Nar-Anon is for the family members that are seeking support. And I went to that, and I didn't find I got anything from it, because people would go in and talk about how their week had been, and that was great. And then they would read a passage from a book, and then they would talk about that, and then the meeting was over. And I really thought, you know, I didn't get a lot from it because I didn't hear what you're doing. or what you're doing that works, or how is your situation similar to mine? And I wasn't getting anything from that because I didn't expect them to, I guess, teach me how to manage this, but I expected to get something from it instead of just sharing with people.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously therapy and mental health services out there, but they're very general.
Yeah.
They're not directly related to unhoused or substance use. So I had talked to Renee at R.O.C.K a few times about my frustration, and she called me one day and she said, "Hey, I've had this person reach out to me from Mom Stop the Harm, and they have a support group called Holding Hope, and it's for family members, and it's different." And she says, "Are you interested in being a facilitator?" I said, "Absolutely, I am." So then she got the information, because I think she was waiting for somebody to support her with it, because she's a very, very busy woman too, right? So we kind of take turns. So she got the information for it. We went through training. We got all of our pamphlets and everything. We were all excited. Now what do? We have to get it out there and get people interested in it.
Yeah.
And so she did all of the face-to-face, because she was used to the government agencies and the medical centers and everything where she could talk to the professionals. And I did more of the street work where I was putting it in grocery stores. A little pamphlet I have here. You might see it in a grocery store somewhere.
Hold it up to the camera over
Okay.
here so people can see.
And we'll make sure to put links.
And if you turn it around, our email address is actually on the back of it.
Oh, I don't know if that'll be close enough
We
to
will
see,
add
but I can
contact-
add that as
contact info
I
and
can add
website
some links.
information
Yeah.
for anyone who wants to dig a little bit deeper.
Okay, perfect. I'll leave this one with you. These are all around town in grocery stores and laundromats and whatnot. I put them up on the bulletin boards. They may not still be there, because I knew they do recycle things after every so many weeks. But today, when we're done, I'm actually going back out and seeing what's missing.
Oh,
Put them up there
restock.
again. So
Well, I imagine Renee was quite pleased that you were happy to come on board with her too, because as the expression for many marginalized groups or a very sensitive subject matter, it's none of us without us. And so for Renee, for her to host or kind of facilitate something like this without having that lived experience herself of mothering a child who is struggling with those things, I think she imagine
There would have been a lack.
it would have been maybe like people would have not been able to connect the same way as being able to connect with someone who is going through the same thing or something similar, right? Because a lot of people will never understand what that feels like to walk in your shoes unless they've lived it. And
I did speak with another woman at the overdose awareness event where I met you, who said something to that extent. She was dealing with her daughter struggling with substance use, and some children were involved. And as a grandmother, she was really struggling with how to navigate it. And she said, "It's difficult because I have a small group of friends, and none of them have this same experience. So I couldn't go to them for the support I needed." So she goes to your programming, and she said she gets a lot from it.
And that's good. That's good. And it's not just about talking. We share videos. There's all kinds of videos out there. Like I said, I'm big on research, so I'm always
so are we.
looking for
We
stuff.
get that,
So I bring in videos that I'll share with a group, and we also have a Facebook page. So anything I can't share in a meeting, I'll post on there for them to look at after. So it's
sharing resources, sharing knowledge.
everything. And I feel for the woman you're talking about, because it is true. She has a very small circle of friends, and that's one of the biggest problems that a lot of people have is they don't even know if their friends have the same situation because it's not talked about.
That's true.
There's so much stigma associated with having a child or a family member with, especially a child, but a family member with addiction, because people shy from you. There's a shame that goes with it. And especially with a parent, people look at you and go, "What did you do wrong?" And that was hard for me to get over, because I went through all the stages with my son. I went through the enabling. He called for money because he was dying and he needed the money. I would give it to him. And then it was codependent. Every day, I didn't know how my day was going to be till I heard how his day was going to be. And then I started setting boundaries and holding those boundaries. They were difficult at first. It's not easy. It's a big word. It's an even bigger action. And I started setting boundaries, and that's when I became stronger. And I realized, this isn't on me. There is nothing I did. And when I talk to him about it now, I know I wasn't a perfect parent. And I'll say to him, what did I do for your childhood that I can talk to you about now and either explain why I did that or make it better for you now? And he's like, "Mom, you did everything you could with what you had to deal with." So I know it's not my fault, and that makes me feel good. And now I know I can put myself out there and tell people my story and say, it's not your fault either.
Yeah, and help
I'm
other
sure
people.
many people need to hear that.
Yeah, someone to help them through that process of taking on someone else's second-hand trauma of another person's lived experience of, and then that trickles into all the areas of your life.
What I was just thinking is that obviously for the individuals experiencing substance issues, we can see their struggle. It's very clear, but for the loved ones, you have to go about your life struggling, the silent struggle, right? So I'm sure there aren't a lot of spaces where you can sort of let your guard down, break down if you need, and say, no, I'm carrying this and I'm struggling.
I think a big thing for it all, it comes back to community, having community, and that's the larger community. That's having the community of your family if you're lucky to have a good support system around you. We talk about the reason for the encampments being a community that those individuals are able to build, and it sounds like you've been able to build a bit of a community by hosting this kind of program for people who are experiencing something similar and want to speak to someone else who's been through it and can understand it in a level that a lot of people couldn't understand.
I'm taking baby steps towards a larger picture, I think.
Yeah.
I know a few months ago the municipality put out a questionnaire. I don't know if you remember the questionnaire they put out.
No.
Asking about it was substance use and the homeless situation, and I guess our thoughts, our input, what we think what they should be doing.
Yeah.
I did that questionnaire, and one of the biggest things I kept talking about was educate.
Yes, yeah.
Because people have perceptions or opinions, or I call it telephone information, because you start at this end and it's roses, and by the time it gets to this end it's a cat. Because everybody shares information differently. By the time it gets to the end, it's nothing it started with. And I said, you need to directly educate people, because there's a gap there that needs to be closed.
Yeah. There's always that, if we don't talk about it, it won't happen. It's like, no, our society needs to get over
problem,
that.
Not a me problem.
We not talking about it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It happens, and everyone who's in the process of it has no idea how to navigate it because they weren't given the proper information.
We've seen this summer with everything going on that, especially in the world of social media, right, it's very easy to share information, but that doesn't always make it accurate.
No.
It's often misinformed, which is very dangerous and damaging. So yes, having more resources available for education from sources that are, going to be sharing facts. And
that's why we're here today. That's why we're doing this series, to try and share a little more information, encourage the community to be looking for resources that are based in fact and knowledge, people with lived experience, people from organizations who have been doing this kind of research and work, to make sure that you're getting yourself informed, and that when you're hearing some of those conversations out, maybe don't spread everything, maybe look into it before you
do
continue to pass it along.
We've discussed.
I do love the holding hope, and there was something beautiful that you said at your deputation. The end of it. Now I'm trying to think about the wording of it.
It was something similar that the woman at Hope Haven had said too.
It's that your son didn't go to the encampment to die. He went there to live, and that as long as they are alive, there is still hope.
Absolutely.
I think that's really beautiful. I hope that you're able to continue your mission.
It sort of sounds like you have something up your sleeve as far as that education piece. So,
is that something you want to share, or is it still in the works?
It's not even started really. I need to start having conversations, because I'm well aware that our municipality, or all municipalities' hands are very, very tied when it comes to supporting or funding towards supporting these homeless or unhoused people. It's more based in the financial or the federal and provincial governments.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to find out, where is that bridge that I can get on a walk to. And my son wants to support me, but he needs to be ready. So he's very eager to get out there and help make a change as well.
I love that. That's very powerful and a very beautiful and positive note to look forward to. I'm sure from a place of such a long struggle.
Yes.
Sort of feels like the light at the end of the tunnel.
I feel like I've lived 10 lifetimes.
I can imagine. Well, we'll be looking forward to following your journey and seeing where that takes you and where it takes your son together and individually.
We appreciate you coming here today and sharing a little bit about your story, and the efforts that you're making to help our community continue to navigate this and provide the supports to everyone involved. And I hope that it encourages maybe more loved ones of individuals who are struggling to feel like they have a place they can go to in Chatham-Kent to find that support and to hopefully help them navigate a very trying time in their lives.
Yeah. And for anyone who is, did you want to tell us the email people can reach out to?
Sure. If you see this around town, it's right on the back. It is chatham@holdinghopecanada.org.
And we will add that to the resource link at the end of the podcast. You can send us any other resources you think our people should be more aware of, and we'll happily add those on as well. I hope Chatham-Kent will care to share this information and continue
Get informed before we form opinions.
You've been listening to The Sister Strain. If you've got something you'd like to share with us, reach out to us. Contact@sisterstrain.com. Yours in sistership, The Sister Strain.